All right, guys, welcome back to another edition of Ministry Moments, part 2 of our whole month long dealing with marriage, the wonderful, wonderful thing that it is.
Did you really just cut your eyes at me like that?
Before we get into this week, guys, I hope you guys did not miss out last week. If you did, you want to go back and check it out. I forgot to mention how much I enjoyed even the couples being so open dealing with things like infertility, because I believe infertility is a big issue that not a lot of people like to talk about. We've dealt with infertility issues, so it is a big thing in marriage, and you know it's taxing. So it was good to hear a discussion about that. But let's get into this week, and I promise, guys, they're gonna answer more than one question.
They're going to get to it. They're going to get to it.
It is another long one. Don't get me wrong, but it's very enjoyable, and they're going to answer more than one question.
But don't think of it as that it's long.
Right.
Really, I'm sure it's going to just fly by for you. Get your spouse, sit down, talk about these questions. This is an opportunity for you to be open with each other, too.
Amen to that. Amen to that. So, enjoy. Let's get into it.
Part 2.
All right, so now on to our next question. Can you name the one or two aspects of your lives that have made warmth in your relationship more difficult?
I would say more so outside factors have been a big influence on what's made the warmth difficult for us. So like our jobs will pull us at different points where he may have to work more, I may have to work more, or some of the other ones that we said, honey?
Well, job was the main factor because I had to travel a lot. And then once I retired from the military, you start traveling for your job. So being the part for that. And then also, with me being gone so much, I can be honest and tell you that it was a lot of things that I missed as a father. So I would have to call and get spun up on what Jeremiah liked and what's something that I can do to get him to this point, or what Zephaniah likes. And I didn't know that. So I'll be totally honest with you. I felt inadequate at sometimes because I wasn't there a lot, traveling from the military. So that was something, it was a barrier for me, but it caused the warmth issue between us.
Yeah. And I think just to kind of add a few more, still people, circumstances, situations, right? Obviously with COVID and different things that come into play, you have to adjust as needed. So we may not have the time that we want, how we want to have that time can be affected. So usually just those outside factors that are beyond your control, things that just are unexpected that you just kind of have to deal with. If there's like, deaths in the family or different things that just kind of may hit either you together or individually very hard. Luckily for us, it has helped to bring us closer instead of further apart. And I think that's the biggest piece, not allowing that to further separate you or kind of put a wedge in between you, but to say, you know what, okay, maybe we will be busy this week and we won't have as much time as we like, but you know what, next week, let's do a date night. Let's do a dinner and and just at home, we'll cook something and kind of watch a good movie or something, just to make sure that you're still pulling it back and connecting and just not letting that go.
But to spin that, what we've done with church, we serve together. So it's not just us two, it's the boys as well. So, sometimes you're getting up early and having to come and do stuff here around the church. And you're like, man, I'm just going to keep it real to y'all. You're like, man, I don't know, man. I might call Ricardo and he can open for me today. Right? But then I see my kids are up and they're going. I'm like, man, they're ready to go because they serve in media. So that kind of motivates you to get done. So we're actually doing it together. So that gives us more outlets to actually be together, and it's just so much better this way with the family dynamic.
Yeah. And I think that's important. And I agree when we both have careers, and sometimes that is your focus because there's so much to do. I bring work at home a lot. I bring work home to do, and he likes to watch movies. I can't always, when my mind is going in 100 different directions, I cannot sit down and focus on a movie. And we like different kind of movies. So, some of that stuff, I'm like, for real? I ain't got time for all that. But sometimes you have to make time and you have to give a little, even if it's not something you normally like. You sit down because you're spending that time with your partner. And I think for us, again, being married for 2 years, being in marriages before, and also being a little older, that plays a big factor too. I came into a relationship with a mindset. He came into the relationship with a mindset. When you get together in your early 20s, you build some of that together. When you get married later in life, you bring that. You don't build it, you bring it. And so now how do you kind of work through some of those barriers and those walls to get to that period of warmth? Because oftentimes what happens if you see something that resembles maybe a situation that you were in before or something that happened before that you didn't like, then it's like, oh, that's familiar to me and I ain't going to. So, and vice versa, it happens both ways. So trying to have warmth in the midst of, all of those things, you have to work at it. You have to make it happen. And for me, what that kind of warmth and comfort is communication. Really, it's communication. Because when you feel off and you feel like you're missing something or you need that hug, you need to communicate that's what you need. Because not that I might not recognize it because I'm focused. Stop me and say, hey, I need some of your time. That will get my attention. And so
that's
those are
a
the things.
huge thing was the time because I felt like I was married to her job. And so when she came home, it was, okay, I want you to decompress, put the job down because you've been thinking about it all day. And now it's my time. And let's watch a movie. Let's chill. Let's unwind. And she started getting upset because she's like, no, I got this. I got to send the email. I'm like, okay, but you've been gone for 12 hours. Only 24 hours in a day. You're going to see him in about another 10 hours. So for these next 4 hours, can I just get like a movie, a hug? You know what I'm saying? Kind of pick your nose or something? I mean, kind of really get sun, you know what I'm saying? So that was difficult adjusting to that because I wanted to be her peace and she was moving so fast and so wound up and work never stopped. And so I wanted to be that peace where you could just say, okay, and just stop and just don't think about nothing for a few minutes. And I never got that. Well, I'm getting it now, but in the beginning, I never got that opportunity to be her peace because she was always going, work. So I used to get mad and be like, I feel like, damn, did I marry you or did I marry your job? And she's like, I'm a package deal, so if you don't know what it is, like this, and, know that, and she got the black girl thing going, and next time checking and stuff. Oh Lord. So I was like, okay, but I've learned to understand that she has a lot of pride in what she does. That's right. She's worked hard to get to where she is in her career, and she's in her field is not very diverse. So for her to be a black woman in competing at the top of the corporate ladder in her profession, I understand the stresses it puts on her. So now I try and commend her and push her like, okay, babe, you gotta get that done. Is something I can help you with? You need some pen and paper. You need me to, load the printer up. What you need me to do to help her, show her that I'm still here and I still want to be connected to you. So instead of being selfish with time, I learned to compromise and be more connecting with her time and be more sympathetic to what she has going on.
And I think those were the two biggest things, the communication and the compromise. In our marriage, when we do our Before I Say I Do class, that's the biggest thing we say. No marriage is going to work if you don't have communication. Right. And then you have to take the I out of it, and it's us. It's not, when you get married, it's not I. It's us. Right. You got to take the selfish out and become selfless. And that's where the compromise come in at.
Great. Well, that kind of leads us on to the next question, which is, would you say that we love each other more now than earlier in our marriage?
I say now.
I say now as well.
I say now 100% because we have been tested and tried and been through the fire. I mean, in the beginning, you do love a person. There's attraction and all that. But it's a little bit premature, I believe. Once you go through with somebody and you're, times where You make a decision to stay through the difficult times. I just think that's a different level of.
You're like you're trying to say something.
No, I'm just being real. I mean, I do. Like I said, in the beginning, there's love, right? You look into his eyes, he look into your eyes, and you got that TV beautiful. Y'all stand on the bridge. It's
that TV love.
Thank you. But once you get, however many years later, and y'all done went through some stuff, because you can go through stuff in your first year. It doesn't have to be 10, 12 years with somebody. But once you go through those things, you really get to kind of, I guess you could say, put some skin in the game, and you can see what people are made of, and if they're really going to fight for this thing. That's how I think you really know, like, okay, he loves me and I love him. You better know it if you don't know.
I agree. And I'll go to one thing that Elder Renee alluded to. So I'm 9 years older. And when we met military, she was approaching like maybe in the middle of her second year, but I was in the end of my 9th.
Oh, wow.
Right. And then coming off a prior marriage, you know how it is when you see somebody, you're like, okay, I like her, but I really like her. But then at the same time, you think about some of the things you've been through, and you don't want to take any of that luggage to a new relationship. But then the outside factors was my family, right, because of her age, and then her family because of my age. So we had to just pretty much say it's us against the world and do what we were supposed to do. We weren't in the church, but you have to realize and understand that God had to have his hand on us, because it seemed like there were so many outside factors that you kind of like, there wasn't rooting for us. So I say now, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, even though it's, a shorter time for us, I would also have to say now, because you grow through.
Yes.
Like Sharice just said, that Hallmark love,
Exactly.
Yes,
real fun.
It's fun. And when you start actually living in the home with someone, and
That's
now
right.
you see things a little bit differently, because, really, I hate socks. Why do I have to step over your socks? Like, it's just, for real, that's a pet peeve of mine, socks. Why? So when you start, those little things just start to kind of creep up, and even, that's a little thing, but other things, just like your attitude about certain things, or your thought process about little things, finances, this, that, very different. And so you're going to either make it through those things, grow through those things, or it's going to stop the relationship.
Right.
And, like you guys, I am 10 years older than him. And that was never a factor for him. It was really more of a factor for me. And it took me a little time to kind of get through that. And why am I doing this? But it was really about the way he made me feel, the way he treated me. His age wasn't a factor. Now, he wasn't a baby. That was key. But, he was close enough that I was comfortable enough with it, with, the age difference. But it was also those outside factors, other people having comments about, our age and the differences. But
AKA the haters.
But if you don't learn to block others out,
Say it.
you
That's
have
so
to
true.
keep other
that.
people out of
Say
your
that.
relationship.
That is
Say
so
that.
true.
And when you are angry with your spouse, you be angry with him.
Yeah.
Deal with that internally, because when you let others know, now y'all good, y'all back together, y'all lovey-dovey, and they still mad.
Exactly.
They still mad. Family, anybody, and so, he's he's better. He's much better communicator than he used to be. And I'm a communicator. So if there's an issue, I need to put it on the table, and we're going to talk about it till I'm ready to stop talking about it. So if you don't talk about it, I'm going to tell somebody. So you better talk about it.
And so that's where we had our disconnects early in the marriage. And I say the same thing. I think our communication is much stronger now. Because, in the beginning, she would say things and I would shut down. And I'd just be like, and I'd be like, okay. Because I learned a long time ago, it takes two people to argue. So if one person don't say nothing, the other one's going to run out of words eventually. Not true.
Yeah, I was going to tell you that's not true, brother.
That's not running out of words. In fact, the longer I got quiet, the more words she came up with. And so I learned, okay, well, I ain't going to win that way, so I'm going to have to figure out something. So I learned to communicate, and not so much as communicate as verbally, but more as communicate as listening. And once I learned to listen and really understand what her issue was, and then sit back and think about it, and not just to be answering what she's saying. Oh, you don't like socks? Well, I don't pick them up. Instead of sitting back and understanding it and listening and taking time to soak it up, think about it. And then sometimes it'd be a day or two might pass, and I might come back to him and say, "Yeah, babe, we talked about them socks the other day. I was on my feet all day. I was tired. I had them work boots on all day. I walked up out of them and took the socks off. I'll work on that. It won't happen again." So sometimes, the listening part is making our relationship stronger, which is improving the communication. Which is why now, I think we love each other more because we learn our love languages and how to communicate.
And I think we are, because for me, it's now too. And I think Music Soul Child said it best in his song "Newness."
Teach me how. I thought you teach me how to love.
Newness was all about that. Everything is all good in the beginning of the relationship.
Okay.
We love each other. We there to, and then as soon as that one problem hit,
Right.
now you didn't kind of move. Time then came. You're moving away from each other. The newness then wore off.
Right.
And our case, we went through all of that. That's part of that.
Sure.
But we grew through that. We learned how to become closer together. We learned how to communicate, because I was a big non-communicator. Fatima would say stuff to me. Matter of fact, Fatima, her communication, she would write letters. And I hated that. I hated to come home and it'd be a 5-7 page letter. Now I done been working all night. And you're just sitting right there and saying, I'm like.
So I was just like you, Renee. I just wrote mine on down. You
yeah,
don't want to listen to me when I'm talking? Here you go.
And so I'll be sitting up there. I come up like,
Don't fall asleep while you read.
Oh, my Lord.
I ain't reading that. I was throwing it all across the but that was me being selfish, because I was always, just come and talk to me about it. But sometimes what I'm learning now is, like if Fatima say, like, why you ain't, I'm like, because I'm listening to what you're saying, so I know how to respond back. Because in the beginning, my response is going to be, okay, you said this and you heard me. Now something's going to come out that I want to hurt you.
Correct.
And now,
correct.
So now we learning how to be a better couple together and stuff like that. And from all those different things, we are far further than what we were when we first started, and closer together, and weathering storms and stuff. Because it shows, because one storm that I wasn't so much worried about but Fatima was more so, how was we going to be when we became empty nesters, and I'm like, we gonna be better than we was with them, because all our life was poured, was poured into them.
Sure.
Now we can pour into what we always wanted to do and spend more time together. Like, this is probably the longest that we've been in Waukegan. Because we normally go somewhere all the time.
But where I was, kind of coming from with that was, when you haven't seen, I saw a lot of divorce in my growing up.
So have I.
So with our parents, his parents being married and divorced, my mother being married and divorced, aunts, uncles, elders, all around us going through that. And that also goes into our next question, and I'll read it in a moment. But when you haven't seen marriage acted out in front of you, you don't know what to expect.
That's right.
And I remember hearing about, I believe it was Patti LaBelle, and her and her husband had been married for 22 years, 25 years or something like that, had 4 or 5 kids, and then got a divorce. Now, I don't know their situation. I don't know, what went on with them. But as a teenager, watching that and seeing that, and thinking like, well, what can happen in 20 years, that y'all couldn't work it out. You couldn't figure it out. So it was always in the back of my head to make sure that I communicated with my husband and let him know how I felt about things, how we could get to know one another, and not just to get to know one another around the children.
Right.
Because so many people lose themselves in the children, that now you ain't dressing up no more, you ain't putting makeup on no more, you ain't going to the gym no more. It's just, you're losing yourself. You're not each other's friend. You're not each other's partner. You ain't laughing together anymore. So I think me asking that question was like, we can't lose ourselves in them. We have enough to give to them and still have something for ourselves.
That's right.
For later on.
That's right.
Because later on is going to come and it's just going to be us.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
they 18, 19, 20, however, you know, most kids are when they get ready to leave out. Okay, that's a short period of time, you know, but when they're gone, we supposed to have another 70 years
That's right.
that we gonna be together. So how are we gonna get through it if we don't know one another? How are we gonna get through it if we don't communicate with one another? And into that last, the next question, which is, has God put his finger on some aspect of your marriage that needs attention? What is it, and what do you believe he wants from it? And as far as we're concerned, like, we want it to be the example of marriage for our families around us. We wanted them to be able to see that we are not a perfect marriage, but we are determined to stay married and be a healthy marriage, to show you all who think that it's not possible, who think that you can't do it. When you think things are going to fall apart, you're going to run, because I was a runner. I was packing on a regular basis and back at my mama's house. You say something wrong to me, I'm
That
out.
only happened one time. Well, almost.
I was gone.
I told her though, she walk out the door.
You have to know that about yourself. So when you begin to walk this way that God wants you to, it's a struggle. It's not even always a battle between me and my husband. It was a battle between me and God, because I knew what God was telling me to do. I knew when he was telling me to stay. I knew when he was telling me to shut up. I knew that. I knew what was going on, but then I just wanted to continue on with it. So my main focus now is that you be who God has called you to be as a couple, and be focused in your marriage, be diligent, and be intentional in your marriage.
Yeah, I think with us, it was, the aspect of our marriage was really our finances, because we both have great careers. We both make really, really good money. And it was something was always falling through the cracks. And, you know, and so when we came to talk about it, it would always be a huge misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I ain't gonna front. It was a war. So we would have some wars over the finances, you know, because we look at the bottom line, we like, it's too much coming in for us to have this issue. Why are we having this issue? You know, and sometimes, you know, I done bought a pair of Jordans I shouldn't have bought, or sometimes she done bought several pair of things she shouldn't have bought.
Wait a minute,
And
hold
so
up.
I used to try and, you know, justify, well, I got one pair of Jordans, you got 5 new pair of shoes in there. And then, you know, she got this one closet that I don't ever go into, but I find my way to go in there now. And you know what I'm saying? I be seeing some tags that wasn't there the week before. So I'm like, oh, okay, I see what we on now. But
Be careful,
it was really our finances that we were having struggles with for a while, because it was just too much. God was being too good to us, and we weren't doing right by what He's blessing. She used to always tell me, if you don't do right with what He giving you now, how you expect Him to give you more? Mm-hmm. And so it took me a lot to learn that, because I'm like, what? Make it rain, baby.
Well, he is correct. Finance, if we've had an issue in our entire relationship, it's probably been finances, and not most, you know, couples and marriages, because there's not enough. Mm-hmm. We've had issues because there's too much, not too much, but there's enough. God is so good to us.
Right.
That's what I will say.
There you go.
And we do money differently. I'm all of, my mother taught me, let me tell you something, as long as your bills paid, you might not have nothing but a bag of beans in the house, but if you got a roof over your head, lights on, all of that, you good to go. So I have always paid all the bills first, all of them. Sometimes I pay bills so quick, so fast, I paid them twice. So, I mean, seriously. And so, his thought process is, okay, well, the bill's paid, so that means I can go out and do this, we can do this, we can do that. No, because you also need to have a cushion, because you don't ever know. If your car breaks down tomorrow, what are you going to do? If something go wrong in the house tomorrow, what are you going to do? I believe in also being a good steward over all of it. Now, will I go out and do things for myself, shop? Yes, I believe in shopping. I believe in it, but I believe in doing these other things first. He and I had different thoughts about how to manage that.
And that was because of how we were raised. So, you know, she came from the mother, dad, you know, daddy was Bill Cosby and mama was Claire, you know, and I come from Good Times, you know what I'm saying? And I wasn't JJ or Michael. I was the male version of Penny. I was trying to keep the iron off my back. You know what I'm talking about? So when we got older and Laura started blessing me, and I felt like everything I never had as a child, because I never had as a child, coming from a real rough background. My mother was addicted to drugs. My dad was never, a part of the picture. So I had to get it how I lived. So when I got older, I got used to, okay, I done took care of this. So now it's time for me to do me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so I was always used to doing that. And prior to her and other relationships, I was kind of spoiled, right? You know what I'm saying? As long as I paid the bills, my mate was like, okay, do what you want to do, or they go do other things. So when I came to her, she has some different standards and expectations. She had different expectations, and she's like, no. There's times to be spoiled, but there's times for you to do this. And so that was I think he did that because he showed us that if we just bring it together, there's so much more we can do. And so once we started getting on the same page and keeping God first, because we was paying tithes and we was doing everything, and then money was still slipping out under the rug for some reason. I'm like, why? Because I wasn't being a good steward. She was being a good steward, but I wasn't. And in the marriage, it's a together thing. So when I learned to start being together and we do stuff together, man, he elevated us and gave us more. Said, see, this is what I was waiting. I was waiting on you to get on board. And again, it goes back to me staying vertical with God. As long as I stay connected to him and he could pour into me, and I just spread the seed for harvest time.
That's funny that you say that, because I'm just listening to you all, and I think about how Fatima and I came about and how different we were. I had my mom and dad, but they weren't together. But my dad was always in part of my life. We moved with him when I was a teenager. But my dad was, bills gonna always be there. You always gotta look good. So every time we got money, we went and spent it. But it was funny because I'm the oldest of 13 kids. So coming up as teenagers, everybody thought we had so much because we were good at hiding it. Because there was 4 of us at the time, same height, same weight. Yeah. So we can buy stuff, but we were interchanging between us 4. Yeah. So people thought we had it, but we really didn't. Mm-hmm. So Fatima and I get married. I got a good job. She got a good job. I'm spending. Because I never had 4 or 5 pair of tennis shoes at one time. Right. So you walk in my... That was just yours. Right, that was just mine. So you walk into my closet now, I have 35 pair of Nikes, just Nikes. Mm-hmm. I have 25 pair of Adidas. I have shoes because that's something I never had. Mm-hmm. I never had a bunch of clothes. So I was like, psh. It was one point when it was just me and Fatima, I was walking around with $500 outfits on. And then we look back at it now and it's like, dude, we was making so much money. Mm-hmm. That was one of the things, where was it going? Mm-hmm. Where's our, like you said, that safety net? Yes. We're on this end of retirement, close to retirement now, and like we're still building that, it's like, man. So I think, like you all said, finances was one of our things too, because it wasn't so much, I don't think we argued much about finance.
Why argue?
But for me, it was
you might
like,
not have listened.
Because see, my thing was,
maybe I didn't write a letter.
Right, my thing was, well, what you mad about? All the bills are paid. You ain't got to come in the house and turn the light on and don't nothing come on.
Right.
Yeah. But look at this cold Mecca outfit I got on.
Right.
Like my dad. Ain't this what you like when you met me?
Right. But like Renee said, I didn't have my mother and my father. I had my mother, and she was Superwoman in my eyes. She was the security. She was the mother, the father. She was the Holy Ghost. She was the whooping stick. She was whatever it is I needed her to be. But when it came to those finances, she worked for the government, all of her, career, and it was 401k plan. You have a mutual fund. This is what you do. There's always going to be, you pay your bills, but there should always be, something extra. She was a single woman raising 3 children, so that's what I saw. That's what I patterned my life as. This is how you should be. This is how you should do things. So that part of it when you're the coming together of two people and two mindsets and trying to figure out like finances together. It is a never ending, can be a never ending story, but it should be a never ending story of learning and wisdom. So just recently, I was, at a virtual conference. They were talking about finance, and the Holy Ghost is speaking to me to watch it. I'm like, okay, I'm so sick and tired of listening to stuff about finance and bringing this stuff back to my husband. But I said, okay, just like Jesus, I think told Paul, Peter, just go on the other side of the boat. Right. Just fish over here. I've been fishing here all day. I've been doing this all day. He said, yeah, I know what you've been doing, but why don't you go on this other side? So I had one of those moments. So I sat down. I listened to the conference. I listened to the conference probably 4 times, and I wrote so many notes. It was probably more papers on here, just about finance. And it was things that I knew, but it was just so much more wisdom that God was, bringing to me. But then the enemy tried to bring like fear to me to not share it, with my husband. Because it was like, okay, here you go again, talking about all this amount of money you need to save and put aside and all of that. But I said, no, we are at, again, like Trundle said, that place where we're trying to retire. We want to move to a warmer climate. Our daughter lives in Alabama. My mom's down there. We have land there. This is our goal, so how are we going to get to that goal? I came to Trundle, laid everything out for him, and I talked to him about it. We're tithers, but that stewardship piece, so this was that part of it. And when I looked at the amounts that we would have to save, like every paycheck to get us, to this certain point in 5 years, I was like, I don't even know if I want to do that. Like, can't we get a smaller house? God, like, I don't want, no, like that ain't necessary. But it was like, no, you have to do this. When I came to Trundle, y'all, he came to me within about 45 minutes and said, this is the amount of money we need to have taken out of our check every week in order for us to save this amount of money at this time. I could have hit the floor.
That's God.
Now, I mean, my hands, I'm like literally like, it was like a little kid. I hadn't brought something I felt like so large to him, like for him to, I brought things like this before. He's like, nope, I ain't doing that. We ain't got time for that. We got this we need to do. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that again. It's like, okay, we've been together 30 years and I still got to hear this, But when I brought it to him and he went and calculated that thing and came right back to me, I was like, okay, hit the ground running. Yeah. I called.
Yeah,
I opened up a new bank account. Okay, this is how you can do this. But let me tell you how God will still test you. So we're on the phone with the lady opening up this account, and one is an investment account, and the other one is like a mutual fund, a different type of investment account. And I said, well, can you just, while we have you on the phone, can we have you withdraw this certain amount of money out of our accounts every week? So it's like I'm on the inside, like if she do it, ain't gonna hurt so bad.
That's right.
Yeah. She just go ahead and just do it.
Yes.
I'm gonna tell you that, I'm gonna whisper it to you. You just gonna do it. And then she says, oh, well, you have the app already set up. You can just go on as soon as we get off this phone.
No, man.
And you expect it.
Right.
I was like, girl, didn't I tell you to put the money in? That's what I was just, saying in the back of my head. So I was like, okay. Like 2 weeks went by. I could not think about anything. But you are supposed to open up that app and have that money taken out. And the next day I didn't do it. And next day I didn't do it. And I was like, okay, Pastor always say the more you keep forgetting to do something, and all of a sudden the door gonna close and you just gonna forget totally. And then 5 years gonna be, come past. This was my thinking. So literally almost 2 weeks went by. And I finally got to the app and I started having the money withdrawn. I called Trundle. I said, okay, this amount is going to come out this week. He was like, oh, okay, I thought you had did that 2 weeks ago. I was like, this man is so on board. I just don't even know what's wrong with me.
But see, I don't know why she didn't already think that, because she'll call me and tell me that I paid the tithe. And I'll be like, all right. When she said I paid the tithe, I would almost jump through the phone and say, why'd you pay the tithe when we got this stuff to pay? And, because I'm always fearful of not having enough and then stuff getting cut up. Because that's what it, having lights and heat and cut stuff, that's like the biggest fear growing up with that and everything, and having to turn the oven on and the eyes on the stove on to heat the house and stuff. That's my biggest fear. And so I'm like, okay, maybe my faith, this whole tithing thing right now, that's the least of my worries right now. But when Fatima says, she was like, yeah, the tithe, I was okay. So that's when she said that about the mutual fund, I was like, all right. I mean, that's cool for me because that's less money when I'm sitting up here and I get a notice from Adidas saying they got a 60% off sale. You know, I ain't
Like,
running
I
over
can't do
to,
it.
I ain't, you know, run over to Adidas, you know. And even in that though, I'm at that age now where stuff is stuff.
Right.
It's got to be
Right.
something that I really, truly, you know, really want to go to actually buy it. You know, and so we got bigger things that we're looking at now. Like Fatima said, you know, we're trying to move to a warmer place down south and be closer to Khadijah and all of that. So I look at the bigger picture now. I'm not looking at the present, you know, and all of that stuff. You know, I like, you know, shopping and all that, but I don't need all that stuff. I got, like I said, I got a closet full of stuff,
Right.
you know, and I ain't trying to impress nobody no more. So,
All right. Well, that takes us to the next question.
I think they had.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
Go ahead.
I think for us or for me, and was realizing that, and this may sound harsh, but when you listen to it, it's not. That your spouse is not the one that makes you happy. Right? You have to be happy with yourself and happy in the Lord, and then you form together that relationship. But you know, before I was praying to God, like, well, have her do this because I like doing that, or I like when she do that, or when she does this. But I had to realize it was something in me that was lacking, and it's hard sometimes for a black man to say that they're lacking anything. But a lot of it came from what I saw men in my family do from a young age, right? And I saw the things that allegedly we're supposed to do. But then when I tried to do those things, it backfired on me. And I'm wondering why it didn't work for me. But, well, now I realize it didn't work for them either, right? So seeing those things in marriage that were never successful, from my grandfather to my mother and father never marrying. So then I had the craziest expectations of what a relationship was supposed to be. And I thought it was a woman was supposed to make a man happy and not say nothing earlier on. So I realized that I had to be okay with myself and love myself and direct that to God, and everything will work out.
And I agree. I know for us, and this is something I think too that you kind of have to remind yourself about. We all come to, we're one unit once we get married, but we come with different baggage, different backgrounds, different things that we've seen and grew up with, different traumas, different things that we might have experienced. And I think it's easy to sometimes look at either your marriage or your mate to just fulfill whatever that you need at that moment, that emptiness, or if you feel like, maybe my self-confidence is here or something right now, you look into that person, but that is such an unrealistic expectation to put on another human being. Like we know now, being saved and in the church, that only God can do that.
Yeah.
But there has been times before, we've been to this point where we would look to each other for that. And then when it doesn't happen, which it won't, because only God can do that, then you have some disconnection or it brings issues within the relationship. So I think that's another key point. Only God can give you that wholeness and that fulfillment that you're looking for. Nothing else will, not a drug, not a person, nothing. And when you figure that out, you can really come to your relationship with your mate and you can just give your whole self. You're not looking to take at anything.
Right.
You're just giving yourself to them, and it's just so much more rewarding.
Amen.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and stop there. Man, oh man, I always hate, just like last week, I hate just stopping.
It's abrupt, right?
No, it's not abrupt, but it's just like, we want more. We want more. Well, we're going to have to put a pin in it there, but don't worry. There's still 2 more parts left of this month, the whole month long. And I just wanted to say, Brother Derek, I completely understand. I think shoes are very important. Just like my wife has shoes.
Shoes for women are very important.
A closet full of shoes.
I actually have 2.
Why can't men have Jordans? I'm just saying. Jordans is not childish. It's a grown man thing.
Okay, you can have a few.
A few. Well, we have fun just like you have fun watching along. We hope you come back next week. Don't forget, get your spouse, make sure you're discussing all the questions amongst yourselves at home. in the comfort of your living rooms, or maybe with a barrier up so you guys don't throw nothing at each other?
No, you have fun, enjoy each other. It's Valentine's weekend.
It
right?
is Valentine's
That's
weekend.
right. If you haven't went out to the store.
Well, it was Valentine's weekend.
No, it is. It's coming.
It's coming?
Sunday.
Oh, right.
You,
What are we doing?
Okay, I guess I'm not getting anything. But just remember, if you are a spouse that hasn't gotten anything yet, the flower stores are still open.
Are they?
There's still an opportunity for you to not sleep on the couch.
Okay.
All right.
Well, if you're sleeping on the couch, make sure you pull your phone out and go back and watch this episode of Ministry Moments again. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.